Wait a minute. Just listen. 4, 3.
A little dance music here. I like it. Hello, everybody. It is 2022. We made it to the other side.
We did.
It is January 5th, 2022. If you're seeing this right now, obviously we are still recording the night before for full transparency. Well, I mean, we already say it anyway.
That's right.
You're tipping back a margarita on Taco Tuesday. You give yourself away.
That's right.
Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or whatever you're watching this. We are doing our first show of the year. This is Coffee Pan Dulce, and we are live.
Yes, welcome. Yes, thank you, Jenny. Welcome, everyone. Thank you. This is Coffee Pan Dulce, as Jenny said. Welcome. Today is January 5th, but full disclosure, we taped the night before. And so today's topic is going to be kind of an interesting topic. We ended 2021 and now we're going into 2022, but almost a year ago this week, actually, just a couple of days, we had the January 6th terrorist attack or insurrection, whatever term you want to use. But I'm Christian Cano, one of your other co-hosts, along with Jenny-Jaymes Gunn, Barb Bacon, and Mama Ruth. And we want to welcome you for those who watch us on Facebook Live, but also on YouTube and Facebook later. As we mentioned on the last show, 2020 was a good year for us. We had over 400 and 300 and 220. I forgot how many thousand. What was the numbers? 180,000 video viewers, 220,000
looks.
Yes, something like that. Anyway, so
right.
it was a pretty good year. So with that said, let's start off 2022 by going around the Brady Bunch screen. Jenny, I guess you're first, and then St. Bernie, which he doesn't talk. He's a good guest, or he's a good host, and then Barbara. So whenever you're ready, Jenny.
Oh, I'm ready right now. Hi,
Okay.
I'm Jenny-Jaymes Gunn, and I'm gonna start off 2022 right. I'm a local and multi-state advocate for LGBT rights, human rights, women's rights. Also, I'm against the violence pandemic that we have in this country. And we definitely need some gun sense laws. I don't even think it's debatable anymore. And really making sure that our democracy is reinforced. In fact, we'll be talking about that today when we're talking about, our nation's first attack on our democracy. And just remind people that's why we vote. That's why we voted in record numbers in 2020. And you
in 2022.
If you ignore your democracy, it'll go away.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Barb Bacon. I think I'm calling myself a community advocate now because I'm doing so many different things here in South Charlotte. And my buttons, if I had them, I can't find them again. I'm such a good organizer lately. Healthcare is at the top of the list again. I've got several people that are sick with COVID and they're like scared to death of what it's going to cost them. One of them doesn't have health care insurance, so I don't even know what happens with that. But gun laws are definitely necessary. They were just talking this morning about how worried they are about the kids going back to school and whether we're going to have gun checks again or metal detectors. It's just getting crazy. So, and I'll be curious to see what happens with this January 6th committee. It's just getting more and more interesting.
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you, Barbara. I'm Christian Cano, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, one of your other co-hosts, and my buttons are healthcare for all, Medicare for all, Moms Demand Action, gun sense legislation, as everyone else, and then in my heart, Black Lives Matter. And so with that said, our today's topic is never forget a year after January 6th terrorist attack. I call it a terrorist attack. I'd be interested to hear what you guys think it is. Some people said it's a riot. Some people said it was a visitors thing. I mean, I don't even know how to. So with that said, why don't we spend the first minute and then we'll kind of go into some other things. Why don't we spend the first minute of playing this? It's kind of a nonpartisan kind of video. I was trying to find something to remind us what happened on that day. And if y'all are okay, I'm going to go ahead and play this. And so Jenny, as usual with technology, you tell me if you can see this.
It's a voodoo audit here.
You got it?
It's swirling right now. It hasn't started yet.
There we go.
Trump supporters
We got-
stormed the U.S. Capitol, refusing to accept the truth that President-elect Joe Biden won the election in November. And there wasn't much law and order. Protesters donning Trump paraphernalia broke into the government building as Congress worked to confirm Biden's victory. They claimed to be patriotic, waving American flags. Nothing like this has ever happened before in America. Shots were fired and one woman was killed. Elected officials, including some Republicans, are calling it an attempted coup. House members huddled on the balcony of the chamber as Trump supporters had a standoff with U.S. Capitol Police.
They broke the glass.
One woman began to pray while another filmed this cell phone video. Outside, police deployed tear gas to try and disperse the crowds. Like his supporters, Trump was in denial. The president released a video repeating baseless claims of election fraud.
We had an election that was stolen from us.
Twitter later took down the video, where he also asked his supporters to go home.
We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. Go home. We love you.
President-elect Joe Biden, who was due to take office on January 20th, relayed a different message.
This is not dissent. It's disorder. It's chaos. It borders on sedition. And it must end.
Authorities secured the building nearly 4 hours after the Trump mob broke in. Lawmakers then went back to work on the Senate floor to confirm the next president of the United States.
So that was kind of a brief video. I didn't want to get show something that was kind of biased on, on either way, but that was, I think, pretty accurate of kind of what happened. So in about a minute or let's go around and tell us what you think about, if you remember that. And it's only a year ago, but but some people are acting like,
What's the big deal?
Exactly. So Jen, why don't you start off, and then Barbara?
I don't think many people are saying it's not a big deal. I think the ones that are the ones that are probably the most guilty, obviously, but the only thing I like to correct about the name of the terrorist attack is it was a Republican terrorist attack. It was not a Democrat or a Libertarian or another party. Let's be very clear. This was a Republican Party-led terrorist attack led by the President of the United States, by members of Congress. They had a multi-page, I think it was a 24 or 32-page PowerPoint that was passed around Congress. It was created by members of Congress and their staff. They had T-shirts. This was organized for weeks. This was not, they just met at a truck stop outside of DC and said, hey boys, let's go raid the Capitol. I mean, this was a planned, executed terrorist attack, Republican-led, Republican-funded terrorist attack. And it was decided to stop democracies, to stop the peaceful transfer of power. That has never happened in our 240-year history. So let's be very clear, not even the Civil War was intended to do this. And so this is very, very serious. And we also have to remember that 727 people have been jailed so far. Just the boots on the ground that attacked the Capitol. 71 of them have been convicted. Almost another 80 or so have already signed confessions and are awaiting being processed. So there's still about another 500 or so that are sitting in jail. They're not allowed bail to face the music, for this.
Sure.
And then after this, then there'll be the prosecution of the public officials after the federal prosecutor makes their case. So, but yeah, it's a Republican-led terrorist attack. It's the Republican Party's responsible for this ultimately.
Okay. And Barbara?
Yeah, I totally agree with Jenny. I think it's only the third time in my life I remember just sitting down in front of the television and watching something that I almost cried. I mean, it was like, what is going on? And to see them just beating policemen. And
Mhm.
by all accounts, Trump just sat in there and watched it on TV, and people came in trying to convince him to stop it, and he just didn't do it.
Yeah.
I think that Liz Cheney said it all when she was on TV over the weekend. She said he should never be allowed to hold public office again.
Yeah.
And he sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States and defend. He wasn't defending the Constitution of the United States. He was defending his lie.
Yeah.
And he deserves to pay for that. And he deserves to pay for it seriously. And it's about time some of them wake up and realize how serious this is. And I'm not talking about the people that only watch Fox News because they think everything else is fake news. They better wake up, because
Yeah.
if they don't, our democracy is in a lot of trouble. I have elderly aunts and uncles that are terrified. Never in their born days have they ever seen anything like this, and they just can't believe it. So I'm with them. We better wake up and get this fixed, or we're in big trouble.
Sure. I want to touch on something real quickly, but the new year, I completely forgot. I'm out of. It's only been a week, but it seems like last year. It's been last year. I forgot to salute to our neighbors. So whatever you're drinking this morning or tonight, salute to our neighbors. And also, I would be in big trouble if I did not mention our producer, sponsor, and supplier of Coffee and Pan Dulce, Manolo's Bakery on Central Avenue in Charlotte, North Carolina. Manolo's Bakery, I do need to get there and get some of those pigs. Barbara, my New Year's resolution is try to eat less carbs and drink less alcohol. And
Okay. I understand. Carbs are not my friend either.
Yes, I'm not doing well on both of those already. We're only 5 days in. So with that said, Manolo's Bakery, please visit your Black and brown businesses during this global pandemic, or all small businesses. So with that said, let's get back to the topic. Kind of what you guys were saying, and I also kind of want to talk about what you were. I know, Barbara, you said you were watching this. Jenny, where were you when this was happening? Because this is one of those moments I think we're always going to remember where we were.
Oh, I was working, and and I checked my phone, and I use my phone for work, and I was out driving around Charlotte, and my phone, of course, I've got my chime on.
Yeah.
So when certain news feeds like Twitter or something like that starts going ding, it started going off like it sounded like a friggin' casino.
Yeah.
Like a slot machine. Like my phone was just, and I was like, and I knew that gathering was happening.
Yes.
Because we'd been talking about it at Brick's Pizza. I hung out with several of the regulars during that time, and we were all talking about it. They're anti-Trump too. Yeah. So there was a lot of people that knew that was happening that day, and it started coming across that they were marching towards the Capitol, and then that they breached the Capitol, and then I pulled over and saw some of the video, and I was shocked. I'm really shocked that. And very disappointed that so many people in that group were former military.
Yeah.
And it saddens me, being a military family, being the daughter and the granddaughter of decorated veterans, and seeing former American service people there.
Yeah.
Attacking democracy. And it saddened me, because no matter what you believe, whether you're on the left or the right or whatever party you want to subscribe to, we've always agreed to transfer power to the presidential candidate that won. Like, that's always been an agreement, no matter what. Even during the Civil War in 1864, they agreed that Lincoln won, and they transferred power to him again, that he won re-election. That no matter what our days have been like, no matter what's been going on, whether it's been a, economic disaster or, civil rights movement, no matter what has been going on in this country, we've always kept to that promise, that constitutional promise that was laid down in 1790. We've always kept to that till then, till January 6th. And it's the first time a political party and a political candidate and a sitting president broke that promise. And he broke that promise to the American people. He started that riot. He stood out there on a platform and stirred those people up, funded the attack, conspired with other people in Congress to help plan that attack, organize that attack. That attack is solely responsible on the shoulders of Donald J. Trump,
Okay.
congressional conspirators, and a whole bunch of idiots.
So,
Big money people too. Big
Yeah.
money people.
the heirs to public grocery store was one of the big $600,000, $700,000 was wired to the conspiracy people to fund this. There was a lot of organization and funding with it. But I was actually, as you guys know, this time last year I was in Georgia. I was helping with the volunteering for the special elections, Senate races, and this time today. The election was actually occurring, which would have been on Tuesday, on January 5th. And then I remember canvassing and doing some things and seeing these cars in Cobb County, and they were on their way to DC. And they had these big signs, like billboards on their cars, on the sides of their cars, that said, "Stop the steal, all this kind of stuff." And I thought, oh, these crazies are going to the rally, and it was like a caravan of them. And I remember I was joking with someone who was canvassing with me going, oh, good, maybe they won't vote because they were voting. So of course the numbers came in, and both of the Democratic senators won, kind of happened real late at night. And so when I woke up, we did our show Wednesday morning, the 6th, if y'all remember that. The show ended, I got everything together, broke everything down. I got in line to get tested because I wanted to get tested on my way back, which, as everyone knows now, I tested positive on the way back, but I got the results on my way back. That's when I was in line waiting to get tested in Atlanta, Georgia. That's when I started seeing the video and then the whole ride home, it was just like, it felt like when 9/11 happened, because I was watching that when I was going from Texas to Princeton, New Jersey for work. And this is one of those times where I'm always going to remember, unfortunately, when it happened, but it was weird because it was done by fellow Americans.
Yeah.
And that's what made it so.
I think that's the big distinction,
Sure.
between 9/11, which was done by foreign nationals, foreign operatives. This was done by Americans with the intention stopping the processing of our democracy, the express intention of grabbing those delegates, those ballot boxes,
Sure,
that cradles our democracy, to cradles the transfer of power that the Senate and the House were about to vote on. And their intention was to get a hold of those boxes. And and one of the great things is several of the staffers made sure right away they got those boxes, all that information, locked it down behind steel doors, and made sure they guarded it with their life.
So
there were so many heroes that day, and those young congressional staffers, probably most of them in their 20s.
Yeah,
some of them probably even unpaid interns.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually in many ways saved our democracy by quick thinking, and probably ended the riot and the attack early, because once they got in there, they realized, hey, everybody's already figured out. Everybody knew the jig is up. we might as well just clear them back out, you know. And
So, hey, Jenny, a question. I want to get what you feel, but I want to ask this to Barbara, because Barbara hangs around her side of the hood where I live, and we are actually located in Charlotte, North Carolina. Barbara is more of a Republican-leaning neighborhood. Is that safe to say, Barb?
My neighborhood, yes.
Yeah. So we're more Republican. I'm probably more in the middle, and Jenny's a very progressive, well-to-do kind of neighborhood. Was that kind of a fair thing to say? And so I'm wondering, because, the polling has come out and they said that 76% of Republicans, that they think that the election was not fair, or whatever the case may be. So they may be a little bit more sympathetic to what occurred. And we see some Congress people, like my own congressperson, who has said what happened was a riot and mob, but he hasn't come out and said it was wrong. It was wrong. This is, this was something wrong. So do you think the reason it's more difficult for some more Republican-leaning individuals to take this as seriously is because they are fellow Americans? And they, I don't know, Barbara, what do you think? And then Jenny, tell me what you think on that.
It isn't an issue that I can even bring up with my neighbors, because they so hostile. It's just not worth it to, start anything. But one of the guys just said, I did my research and we were right. And I said, then why didn't any of the lawsuits be upheld?
Yeah, well,
everyone was shot down. And when has this ever happened in the history of our country? You name it. Show me where.
I gotta say, I don't mean to laugh, but it reminded me of something that occurred yesterday. But Jenny, tell me, I know you want to say something.
Well, I mean, so if we're going to talk about the big lie, which is the election was stolen, which is what precipitated this Republican terrorist attack of the Capitol. For one thing, if you disagree with the results, I get it.
Sure.
You lost 64 cases, didn't win a single one. Rudy Giuliani lost his law license over because he got caught lying under oath.
Yep.
I get it. The states have had a recount. Every one of them, Biden's won by a bigger number. I get it. But at some point, you have to understand that when it's kind of like in sports. I played sports for a long time.
Sure.
And when we were way up and we were trouncing somebody, and they make one cool play and they start getting all hyphy and started like bumping their chests and getting up in our face. All I would ever do is I'd lean and I would point towards the scoreboard. I just go, you're behind by 40 points in a basketball game. You get excited about one slam dunk, but it was your B crew on our C crew that did it. So scoreboard. Well, I got to say the Republicans scoreboard, 64 judges, federal judges.
Yep.
And half of them they appointed.
Trump appointed.
The majority of them were Republican appointed judges, either by George W. Bush or Trump. So they were fairly conservative judges, and not a single one could find any shred of evidence. Your lead attorney, Rudy Giuliani, former mayor of New York City, lost his law license because he lied under oath because he was trying to keep the big lie alive. No state with a Republican governor or a Democratic governor has overturned any results, and his own vice president certified the results in the same, saying that they're accurate and truthful. There is no
even with a hanging noose with his name on it.
Correct. So there is no compelling reason for you. And on top of that, on top of all the mounds of evidence, which is fake news, according to them, the most important thing is you still shouldn't fucking attack the Capitol. So even if you don't agree with evidence, because it's fake news now and y'all and the Republican land,
Sure.
The most important thing is it's still not an excuse. It does not excuse a Republican terrorist attack against our capital. It does not excuse aiming guns towards Republican politicians too. These are people,
Sure. Yeah.
whether I like them or not, and there's a bunch of Republicans sitting in Congress I don't care for,
Sure.
but I also don't want them shot. I also don't want them hung. I don't want them attacked. I want them to be able to go and do their jobs. They struggle to do their jobs anyway. Let's not say that Congress has been real stellar the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So look, we don't need to slow them down any more than we need to.
Sure.
Just take the loss, and like y'all said in 2017, fuck your feelings, get over it, quit being a baby, and move on. Just move on, get over it.
That's what's it to me. This is what it seems. I know all the information is coming out. And Jenny, you've been telling me about the PowerPoint, and we're hearing information. The committee is getting information from people. People are knocking on each other, and there's all kinds of things. And understandably, Trump wants to hide a lot of the communications because a lot of it's embarrassing and some of them maybe even criminal. And so he's doing everything he can to delay it. What's really bizarre, and this is the reason I asked the question like that, was because, especially to Barbara, was because we've talked about this before, which is why we started this show, is to be able to communicate with each other who may not agree with us, who have different political views or whatever kind of views. And we haven't really had the opportunity during the pandemic and even through how we're doing the show now, to always have people who can come to us and say, this is the reason, because I want to put myself in their shoes and go, let's just, kind of like the way Jenny said, let's just assume not argument, that you believe in your heart, in your mind, intelligent person, and you say something was fishy about this election and I want an audit. Let's assume that. The second thing that has to come out of your mouth, and it's not, is, and I'm mad because all of those states that were corrupt were run by Republicans.
Right.
So basically what they're saying is it was rigged and my own party rigged it against. So
Against us?
Well,
that's what I don't understand.
and a very important point is, so your Secretary of State in each state certifies the state's election tallies, through the Board of Elections, and then the governor has to sign off on it. Well, 24 of the 50 states that signed off on this had Republican governors at that time in the fall of 2020, before it goes in December. It travels from each of the states to the Capitol and is held under lock and key until certification time in January. It's usually about 2 weeks or so before Inauguration Day. And so there's a whole process. People just don't slip in ballots and it all just goes into a supercomputer and nothing. There's an actual paper trail that has to go from like precinct to state, and that's just how we run our democracy.
Sure.
So, to make sure everything is done right, and then there's checks and balances, and then you have the chance to object to the results, whether you're a local politician, state level, or a federal level politician. And Trump did. He did 64 times.
So this
and not to mention recounts in certain states. And so these 64 lawsuits became at the expense of the American taxpayer. He lost all 64 of the lawsuits.
Yep.
That should be the end of it. Biden got inaugurated in later that January. That's it. It's over. But now you still have Trump and many of his other minions still spouting election fraud. They've based a whole bunch of new bills and laws in different red states, trying to change election laws based on a absolute lie and a baseless complaint. And in a record year, the democracy actually ran very well. We had 68% of the registered voters turn out during an airborne pandemic. And, quite frankly, the only thing I can say is the Republican Party hates Americans.
Sure.
They hate democracy. They hate peace. They hate rule of law. They hate the fact they hate human beings, because obviously they want to spread as much COVID as they humanly can.
Yeah.
And I'm just tired of hearing. I mean, when you have a sitting congressperson that gets suspended from Twitter a fifth and last time because she's permanently banned from Twitter
Mhm.
because she wants to lie about a vaccine
Sure.
that saved billions of lives across the planet.
And
At some point, we got to look at the Republican Party and go, is it time to disband them as a party? Is it time to talk about legally disbanding the Republican Party as a terrorist group and let conservatives find a new party home and just say, and it's because at some point
sure.
they've traded in some kookiness. They've been pretty kooky over the last 50, 60 years.
And they believe Democrats are kooky as well. Yeah. So
but are we at the point where we have to have a conversation that the Republican Party needs to be disbanded?
yeah, well, I don't know how that's going to happen because it's a. Okay, I'm going to sound like a Republican here. It's the freedom of.
Well, I mean, there's other parties. There's other conservative parties. But at some point, when it quacks like a duck and acts like a duck, we got to call it a dunk, and it's shifting. The Republican Party has definitely shifted from a political entity to a terrorist organization that is funded.
It does seem that those who are the loudest in the Republican Party right now seem to be just even 5-10 years ago would be what we would call crazies. No matter who we are, we would, Republicans, Democrats, Independents would call them the crazies, and they are in charge. And it's just a weird thing. We forgot to talk about these three things. Do you guys want to do the current events real quickly?
Sure.
Okay,
sure.
Barb, is that okay with you? Sorry, I'm a little bit off in 2022, so this is good. This is probably how the year is going to go. But the three current events we want to talk about in 30 seconds or less. Our speed round here is the first one. Areas that voted for Trump are among the highest unvaccinated and have the most deaths from COVID-19. Who would have thought that?
Surprise.
And that report came out right before Christmas, and I'm sure it's even worse with the Omicron. And the next one is swing voters are not pleased with GOP opposition towards the January 6th committee. So the swing voters are, they polled them and they're very upset, people who are against looking into it. And then the last one, which I find, I don't know why, I have to laugh. Trump's billion-dollar social media venture. You guys remember that? It was getting started towards the end of last year, and it's hit a lot of rolls because they were doing patent infringements and so forth. Trump's billion-dollar social media venture turns out to be, it's funded by a Chinese company with a shady history. The SEC is now investigating this organization that gave them $1.2 billion in cash. They're called the Digital World Acquisition, and they created a shell company to invest in this. And this is the Wall Street Journal that actually did this report. And they found out that they have no office and no employees. So interesting.
So it's a shell.
Yeah. So who wants to comment on any of those in 30 seconds or less? I know Jenny does, and then we'll get.
I'll rifle through it like shit.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, the whole Trump network thing, we could have saw that coming. I mean, we are talking about the guy that created the Trump University.
Yeah.
So I mean, come on. I mean, it is it not just a little delicious the fact that he railed on Chinese for so long, the Chinese government and Chinese people, and badmouthed them, and they're the ones that have invested into his new Ponzi scheme. I mean, they're just something like something about it. This is great. As far as the Republican districts that voted for Trump that have the most COVID, well, water's wet too. I mean, and other news, I mean, there's no shock there. I mean, we've been saying that for months.
Yeah.
There's 37 million registered Republicans that refuse to get the vaccination of any kind. They just refuse. And so there's zero shock on that.
Mhm.
You know, I'm just surprised that there's not more.
Yeah.
But and
Oh,
then the
those are
third
the
one,
dead ones, Jenny.
oh yeah, that's right. Dead man can't tell no lies. That's for
right.
sure.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Can't
that'll be the
count
thing.
either. Oh,
That'll be
there-
the Republican. That'll be the Republican Party this platform this year. Dead people can't tell lies.
Yeah.
But anyway, and the third one was
The swing voters.
the
January
swing voters.
6th.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the wind will blow another way, and they'll forget about it in a couple months. I don't know. I'm not real worried about what people think, because the prosecutions, when you're talking about 727 people that are in jail,
Mhm.
that does take a little bit of time. And
Yeah.
we got to remember that the Watergate investigations, took two and a half years.
Yeah.
So this is going to roll on way past the midterms. This is going to probably take the better part of the next 2 years, with the
Well-
bulk of it being settled this year.
Sure.
But you know, it's just one of those things that you can't go through 3 to 4 million pieces of evidence. It's 727 different trials, because all 727, just like you or I or anybody else is standing in a criminal trial,
Yeah.
we do have the right to a fair, speedy, and
Well-
efficient trial, and they all have to be prosecuted on their own.
Okay.
So it's going to take a
Jen.
while.
Yeah, Jen, let me get Barb. Barb, you want to comment on any of those three real quickly?
Swing voters, I think it'll all be forgotten by the time the primaries
Election.
come around.
Okay.
I think people's attention span are just too short,
Yep.
and
Okay.
there's always going to be something else going on, so
Yep.
I'm not worried about that.
Mhm.
I guess if I have Republicans in my family, and I just said, well, you're the only party that I know of that's killing their voters, so, you know, what do you want me to say to you? You know, and my brother just goes, you know, and I
Yeah.
promised we wouldn't dig on each other, but I couldn't
Yeah.
help,
Yeah.
because they go to a Christmas party, Christmas Eve. 90% of the people there were unvaccinated. And I'm like, you have a
Yep.
cardiac condition and you're going to this? You're out of your mind.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, how many days has it been since, you know?
Yeah. You start counting down.
I was scared to death for him.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And I forgot what the other topic
The
was.
Chinese investment. Into,
Oh,
yeah.
What a surprise. China will do anything to beat the United States. So are we surprised? No. But he's a narcissist. He's got to have somebody feeding his fire. And if he'll go to any measures to get money. And so I guess it's Chinese money now. Oh,
Well,
But don't you find it delicious, Barb, that he still keeps finding suckers that'll hand him money?
I think the Chinese are smart to do that, because
I think that
they own us anyway.
to me, what made him most dangerous as a president, and thank goodness he's not our president anymore. What made him the most dangerous is he was willing to do anything to make money, which means this could be the Chinese Communist government who formed this shell company to give money to him so they can hang that over his head. Russia, we know, has a lot of stuff on him.
Yeah.
We know a lot of countries have information on him, and he's got a lot of crazy skeletons in his closet. And that's what makes him scary to me, was when push comes to shove, he may turn the cheek when something happens. Now, I'm not one who believes that Chinese investment is bad. I mean, I think I opened several hotels that were actually financed by Chinese investors, doctors that came over and invested in companies. So I'm in Atlanta, almost half their hotels are financed by Chinese investors. However, I don't know. It's just
I think
delicious.
this is different kind of
Yes.
money, though.
Exactly. This is like
Well-
a shell. It's not like we don't even know who it is. They say they don't have any employees. And
Not brick and
the SEC
mortars, it's
yeah, they said the SEC's had to
like
close
money
this
under the
down
table.
again.
Well,
Go ahead, Jenny.
I think it's just as credible as his university.
Oh yeah,
But,
exactly. I don't think.
or
No,
the
no.
$5 billion he
No.
scammed out of voters,
I don't.
his followers to build the wall fund, that somehow Banyan disappeared with all that money, and how Banyan's not sitting under a jail. Because
Yeah.
what I don't get, so this is what I don't get.
Sure.
Between Trump University stealing the cancer fund money,
Sure.
the Trump wall fund, and now this new scam. I know that if I did this,
Yeah.
they would throw me into that federal prison sitting under a Colorado mountain right now. And I would have some special roommates.
And I think
It would not be pretty.
Yeah.
But how this guy, and some of this, what I'm about to say is almost like an admiration. It is like how he can keep pulling these massive Ponzi schemes, these smoke and mirror P.D. Parnham deals where he gets his hands on billions of dollars. And most of all, Chinese investors are usually pretty savvy.
sure.
And so the scary part is that he dupes some Chinese billionaire or government money.
Jenny, that's why I seem to think that because it's a shell company that formed a shell company, the way the report is saying.
Right.
I don't think the money is coming from a real investor who actually thinks they're going to get a return. I think that because they couldn't get finance through any other venture capitalists who wanted to do this. So this was the only one that they could get money from, and they just took it because. So this is like pennies on the dollar for China to invest in something that they can hold over his head. But I don't think anyone believes that Donald Trump, because and what's the guy, the congressman who just resigned so he could run this company? I don't think anyone believes that they're ever gonna actually be a social media thing.
Oh, no.
I think it's a Ponzi scheme. But
No,
there's a
because
sucker born.
it is being set up
Yep.
as a SPAC
Sure.
on Wall Street, which
Yeah.
is kind of it's different fund. It's a new way of funding, and the SPAC rules on
Sure.
raising money have less paperwork. I guess
Okay.
that's the easiest way.
Yeah.
There's less vetting,
Sure.
and it's
Oh, great.
perfectly legal.
That's
So they chose to go the route of the SPAC,
Sure.
but immediately, as loose as those rules are, that's already under investigation. So
Yeah,
this
exactly. They're all under
investment
investigation. So
because there is certain things that they have to check off the box, because what happens eventually, what the intention of a SPAC investment is eventually that this is going to be a publicly traded company, meaning it has to go by certain federal trade rules.
so this is
And it'll be traded on the stock market like Facebook or Twitter. It'll be a
So-
public company.
so Jenny.
so
th-
There is a lot of questions.
Sure. So Jenny,
already.
this is equivalent. The way Trump runs his businesses and so forth, this is equivalent to the shady guy that goes into the barber shop going, "Hey, I got some CDs and watches you want to buy."
Oh yeah.
This.
Oh, yeah.
And for some reason, there is a portion of Americans tend to be Republican, tend to be male, rural, less educated than probably your average American, that really likes this because they see, I don't understand the connection that they have to
Oh, I do.
a con artist.
I do.
Okay, 30 seconds because we got to go back to our topic. Go ahead.
Regular poor people like myself,
Yeah,
but the conservative version, not the
sure.
progressive version,
Yeah.
have got this dream that they're
Mhm.
going to be the next Trump or
Yep.
Mark Cuban
Mhm.
or one of the people on a Shark Tank.
Exactly.
They all believe that they're going to be that next millionaire or billionaire success
Mhm.
story. So there is that little romantic ideal that they're going to root for somebody like Trump, because they don't realize that he came from money. He started
Yeah.
life with $400
It's-
million in
it's
trust
part of that
fund
It's
that
part
he
of that
stole
big
from his
lie.
siblings.
Yeah,
and-
it's part of that
and-
big
and-
American lie, self-made. No one is self-made
Yeah.
in America.
And it's just like anything else. It's
Yeah.
just like, all the other,
Sure.
George W. Bush, and
Yeah.
all these other stories they have.
Yes.
But the truth is, there is a certain part of conservative America
Mhm.
where these white people root on these millionaires and billionaires because they believe, just like a lot of people, a lot of guys watch football.
Sure. Yeah.
They live vicariously through
Yes.
these athletes,
Okay.
thinking, oh, if I'd have had that one break, or if the coach would have liked it a little bit more, even though they run a time in the 40-yard dash that go by the calendar and couldn't
Sure.
dunk a basketball, but
Mhm.
somehow they believe that they could have been in the NBA or NFL
No.
or pro baseball. And so it's this kind of this hero worship. They're living vicariously through them. And they're going, well, maybe someday I'll invent that pet rock or
Yeah.
some type of, whatever
The-
gizmo. And I'll be rubbing elbows with them at Mar-a-Lago too,
Yeah.
with ankle bracelets. And
So Jenny, let's tie that back into the January 6th thing, because this is just, it's difficult for me to digest all of this because I don't live in that world.
but it
And-
ties
and-
completely back into it.
Yes.
But the
Yes.
fact that you had
Look at how many
regular
people they
people-
got to show up.
Exactly.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
look at the caliber of some of the people
Yes.
that showed up.
Yeah.
Police,
we have
former military.
727 people that are sitting in jail
Sure.
right now or have sat in jail. There's thousands more that haven't been prosecuted or arrested yet. But these are people like one of the people that I knew that was involved with it was a Texas realtor, this little blonde girl from Dallas that
I saw that.
was
on
that's a
NBC
friend
today.
of a friend. I don't know her personally,
Sure.
but I know a lot of her friends because I got some messages from some of them going, hey Jenny, have you seen this?
Yeah.
And it was them flying on a private plane.
Yeah.
There's
I saw
about
it on
6 of them.
NBC. They did it on NBC tonight. A story on her. Yep.
And so she's a friend of a friend.
Okay.
So I've known about her since actually before the attack even happened.
Sure.
Because and these people got so enamored, so fell in love with Donald J. Trump, and so involved into the cult of Trump that and this is why multi-level marketing companies and churches work so well, because you fall in love. There's a romantic ideal with conspiracy theories and these
Yep.
things that are bigger than ourselves. We're on the know.
Mhm.
We're on the inside. We're on the inside track.
Yep.
We know more than you. We've got evidence that the election was stolen, whatever it is.
Sure.
And it makes little people, regular people,
Mhm.
like you guys. I'm not a regular person, but it makes people that have just regular old lives
Mhm.
feel more important.
Sure.
And I think that's why you got really probably fairly rational, but yet desperate people. Because if you look at some of the people, like the former Air Force woman, the veteran
Mhm.
that died
Yeah.
on January 6th,
Mhm.
for example, she was losing her business.
Yeah.
She was going bankrupt. Her life was falling apart before she went
Yeah.
to Washington.
Yeah. If you, yeah.
The real estate blocker, the little blondie from Dallas, that's a friend of our friend. She also, her real estate business was actually going under as well. And this was way before January 6th.
Yeah, they had
A lot of
trauma in
these
their lives.
people
Mhm.
were having little moments of desperation.
Mhm.
And I think they feel like that this was something bigger than themselves and to stop the steal. And they got so caught up in the moment. And this is how Ponzi schemes. This is like, if you ever watched something on MSNBC where they do these documentaries about these different con artists that do these different deals,
Yeah.
and they're always very charismatic. They usually go to the right church. They say the
Yeah.
right thing,
Mhm.
and you've seen this happen.
Sorry.
And Trump is basically just an over glorified version of a confidence man. He's just
Yeah.
like the guy you're talking about that's selling
So-
the Romex.
So, and that's what,
The jacket.
hey, Jenny and Barb,
Yeah.
that's what to me has been so disappointing about some people that maybe we know, or
Right.
some people that have been silent, that have not shared, this was wrong. This is something that shouldn't have happened. They've been kind of silent on it. And I'm not saying everyone needs to come out and say that, but the reason I think is because these are the people that say they love America. They're always the ones that waving the flag. We love America. We love democracy. You know, our country, when Black Lives Matter movement was going, which it was a very peaceful movement, there were some mob and some riots, yes, and I think those were terrible things, and local authorities addressed those. But the majority, as they showed, 90-something, 96, 97%, I don't know what it was all marches. And they're the ones that, well, you know, love America, don't kneel down, you know, honor the flag, and, you know, I fought for my country, and this. But when this happened, and this is the only time in history, I think, since the War of 1812, that someone has tried to breach the Capitol, that very few of them are actually saying what you did against our country is wrong. They're kind of, well, it was free speech. Maybe it got a little out of hand. And there's a quote that I want to quote, and then we need to start winding down the show. Leonard Pitts. I don't know if anyone knows who that is. Leonard Pitts is, I believe, a writer, and I'm embarrassed because I don't follow him, but I guess in the New Yorker or the New York Times, he wrote an article about a month ago, and he wrote an article about his disappointment in Americans who say they love this country in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, all these generations, and they've been really silent on this. And he said, one has to wonder, did you people ever really love this country? Or was that just something you said back when folks like you were the only ones in charge? Nobody else had a voice, and you thought it would be that way always. And that's what my frustration is I see all these people who say, to Jenny's point as well, about people who are in the military. I've got military family members who are veterans. I don't know how many I have, 18, 19 living. And I have not heard a lot from them. I've heard a lot from them about the border,
Yes.
even though they're Hispanic, LatinX, which is another show.
Yes.
I have not heard any of them say what they did was wrong. And I'm disappointed in that.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how anyone else feels as we start
The-
to wind down the show.
The Republican outrage, the silence is definitely.
The mainstream Republicans are saying nothing. To me, they're just as guilty as the rest of them if they don't get some backbone and say, you gotta stop this.
Yeah.
Well,
And
and the
they're
truth,
afraid. What are you afraid of?
and the truth is,
I don't get it.
that is why in history we've had people like Hitler,
Sure.
is
Yeah.
because good people, even
Yeah.
people that knew better, that went along to get along,
Mhm.
when the dare to be great moment happens, many people went silent that were involved with that and looked the other way when that Jewish neighbor got hauled off, when that gay neighbor got hauled off. And we've seen that this year when they've come after the transgender community, especially transgender kids, as a distraction technique.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Scaring the shit out of trans kids
Mhm.
as a distraction technique. The first few months right after the attack,
Yeah.
and they're using
trying
my
to-
community, they're using the border,
Mhm.
they're using the Latinx community, they're using women's rights, they're
Mhm.
using all these other things as a distraction technique to create fake, overblown stuff. When the guilty scream the loudest, the Republican terrorist attack, and it's a Republican terrorist attack
Yep.
on our capital. That, like you said, we've
Mhm.
not had our capital attacked by any other group except for the British military
Yeah.
at the War of 1812.
Yeah.
That's been a while.
Yeah.
And,
Well-
and we've never had an American
Mhm.
terrorist cell or group or militia ever attack the Congress, Capitol Hill. We've never had that happen. Not even in the Civil War did that happen. They
And
stopped it.
And Jenny, to your point, and also Barbara, and those who watch the show and who will watch it later, and if you have family members or so who I'm not suggesting you should have these kind of conversations with your family. Every family is different, but I do think that we have to, all of Americans have to step our game up, and we have to hold people accountable who did these things so it's not repeated. And we cannot make this normal. We cannot say, oh, it was just, this was a terrible domestic terrorist attack. Was everyone there domestic terrorists? No, they were involved. They got. I will give them.
They didn't stop it.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
didn't stop it.
exactly.
Let me tell you
That's,
something.
that's
You're
my
no
point.
fucking hero.
Yes.
If you're sitting there patting that guy on the back as he runs in there, you are just
Exactly.
the same. You're complicit
So-
in that. Those guys were all cheering on, even if they didn't breach the building. You were still a part of it. So
And that's-
everybody on that ground was a terrorist, including
So
Trump.
Jenny, what you said was exactly right, because anyone who was there, even if you did not go in
Still
through
a
the
terrorist.
Capitol, anyone that was there is a coward and a traitor, in my view, because you didn't love the country enough to fight those people off.
You're
And
you're
so-
just as bad.
Or to
As
see
the guy
how bad
that-
it is and walk away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you
Or
could say,
maybe-
oh my
or maybe
God, I
take
didn't come
stock
here
in
to do this, and walk
Exactly.
away. How many walked away? They
Grab-
said, "Bye."
grab your buddies and walk away. And just say,
Yeah.
no, I didn't sign up for this. I came here to listen to Trump speak. You're going home with me. You rode with me. You're coming home.
Sure.
We're not doing this. We are not doing this. A real American, a real
Yeah.
patriot would have stopped that.
Exactly.
And I believe in my heart of hearts that both my grandfather and my father, if they'd been there, if they'd gotten duped into this, that they would have fought like hell to make sure that that didn't happen. And I'm ashamed, and shame on any veteran that was there for any reason, whether they looked the other way or they breached that building. You need to go to prison. You deserve more jail time, because you took an oath when you joined the military. And that is horrific. That is shameful. I don't give a crap what your politics are. That's gross.
I do think as we end the show, I do think as we look back, and I'm sure over the next couple of days, especially on January 6th, the news will be doing stories on this, and all news networks will be storing, it'll be spun differently. But I do think one of the things that we do have to realize, 2021 is over, but we're still kind of recovering from this and the investigation that's going on. But it's exactly what Jenny said. The current Republican Party, especially some of them who don't have the courage to stand up to this crazy traitorism. I don't even know the terms to use. The ones that they're using so many tactics, and Americans have to open our eyes and open our ears. All of the things that Jenny said, they're trying to change the conversation. They don't want you to focus on this. They want you to focus on transgender kids, people at the border, critical race theory that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Imaginary critical race theory. All of the woke culture, woke cancel culture. All
Conservatives
of these
have always
things they want
done
you
that,
to
though.
focus on.
Conservatives have always done the political rope-a-dope.
Sure.
You know, Reagan did it.
Yeah.
You know, when he wanted to cover up all of his failures with the HIV crisis and him,
Oh yeah.
and him
Yeah.
looking at the way, you know, they had all these other different urgencies, all these other scary things. And conservatives have been really good at always creating villains. We can go back to the Puritan days when they were making up women being witches, when they just really were probably just opinionated or not really into these dudes and just didn't really like to be raped. And you know, and these guys, well, they gotta be lesbians, they gotta be witches, let's drown them, you know, they can't reject me, you know, and we've had this, yeah, and we've had this burn them at the stake mentality. You're exactly right, Barb, where conservatives throughout our country's history, starting with the Puritan culture and ending with Trump, is the conservatives' MO has always been create the big lie,
Yeah.
create this big old whopper that is just so outrageous and distracting that they just get to plow through our culture again and enslave somebody or murder somebody or rape and pillage. And they're always fiddling when Rome is burning, and they just don't give a crap about America. Conservatives hate America. They always have.
Jenny, we'll end on a positive note. As we've talked about over the last couple of years on this show, and we have all, I think, seen this kind of happen, it is working less and less. They still try it. But we have learned to, for an example, we talked about last week, this Let's Go Brandon thing they've got going. They are so childish and desperate for things that they're, I mean, that is actually their strategy. Let's go, Brandon. Critical
Distract.
race theory,
Distract.
woke. Yeah, and it's like, it's, people are going, now,
Enough.
yeah.
Well, I think it'll
Enough is
backfire.
enough. Yeah, I think it will too.
I think it already is backfiring, and I think it's going to backfire really bad in 2022 because they're going to be judged by their actions
Sure.
and the absolute incompetence and criminal behavior that they've been doing for a long time, that has just gotten so obvious. And we watched this unfold on social media live last year, this in just horrific detail. There's no way around it. There's no way to obfuscate the truth.
And as we have talked about many times, and we talked about kind of off camera before the show, if you're a Democrat, and Democrats have to do a really good job of reminding people and not letting them change the narrative. We talk about the congressman who's in my area, and I think some of y'all's area as well. I'm getting all of these flyers that are paid for by taxpayers trying to say that he's a conservative, not even mentioning Trump. So he's trying to act like, well, I didn't really have anything to do with Trump. You know? so
Yeah, it works in Virginia, so it can work here. Yes.
I think that's what. So Democrats have to remind people this is one of the crazy Marjorie Taylor Greene guys. He may try to put lipstick on a pig, but he's still a pig.
Bishop's a Trump guy. He's a Trumper.
Oh yeah,
he's crazy. He's crazy. All right. With that said, this has been a good show. You know, we had another video, but I think we've talked about everything we need to. Everyone remembers. Everyone remembers. So we'll go around the Brady Bunch screen and tell us where we're going to be in the next 30 seconds or less over the next week. Next week's show to let you know who was Martin Luther King. We do hope to have a special guest on next week to kind of help educate us. I think we have an idea, but you know, we'd like to kind of talk about the importance of the holiday and so forth. And then the week after, we actually will be talking about Reimagining America Project. Reverend Dr. Sadler, Rodney Sadler, we hope is going to be returning to talk about that project. And then we will end the month with modern day white supremacists. We'll be talking about what is a modern day white supremacist and what do they look like. And a second topic, this is the only show we've ever had two topics, how to eat a tamale. So
okay.
We'll be, you can do for
hungry for the show.
You can do.
It's almost like a Groupon. We're offering a Groupon special.
What is
we
that?
got guns. We got guns that look like knives and knives that look like guns. Saturday. Come on down.
I don't know why that topic just sounds funny. Modern day white supremacist and how to eat a tamale.
Yeah, we sound like the local morning show.
Next on Coffee and Pan Dulce.
Yes.
It's like Wake Up Charlotte. Wake Up Charlotte. Dog attacks young baby. And how to feed your family for $2. You know, or it's just that's like a Wake Up Charlotte. And anyway, all right. So let's go around. I'm sorry. You go first, Jenny, then Barbara. Where are you going to be in the show?
I'm not doing much in the month of January, especially the first half. I'm laying pretty low. There's no events. So pretty much, if you're going to find me, you're going to find me right here in Facebook Live. But yeah.
I'm just helping a friend try to recover from the holidays and put her house back together again. She had tons of family and friends, so that's what I'm going to be doing. Otherwise, I guess it's going to be colder, so maybe I can get my Illinois clothes now.
I know we forgot. Those of us who live in Charlotte, North Carolina, in case you are watching this for the first time, we're actually in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we are actually just now getting cold. And sometimes we forget it is winter. So, you know,
I'm not happy about this at all.
Yeah, well,
I liked spring last week. Like we got
spoiled. As long as it's, I don't like wet and cold. I don't mind cold.
We knew it was coming. We just didn't know when.
I don't have to like it.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well,
I'm ready for March.
Yeah, exactly. I will be here. Just like Jenny, I won't be anywhere except here with you. And then, of course, before next week's show, we'll know who the national champion is in college football, Georgia versus Alabama. Those who even care about that. So, because I know Jenny will be watching foosball.
I'm not a college football person.
Yeah, I know.
And the Bears have been terrible this year.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who makes it to the. All right. With that said, we're gonna wave out. Thank you so much for joining us on Coffee and Pan Dulce. Bye, y'all. Here's some music. We call these Oompa Loompa dances.
Oompa loofah.
They are Hoopa dances.
You just kind of go like this, and you do like a little side step. Oh, Jenny, she probably has been to some. Well, you were.
Oh, God,
You're right, exactly. Bye, y'all. We'll see you next week.